Good morning. This is Chris Emmel. I'm standing in for Simon Vegro this week, and I'm delighted to welcome everyone joining today's Zoom Live, and also to say hello to the large number of people who watch and listen to it later on Facebook or on our website, Active in Redbourn. And the team Active in Redbourn hope that you enjoy it today. As always, there's a usual brief housekeeping message. People are automatically muted with the video turned off when you join. If you want to preserve your anonymity still further, you can change your name in Zoom. You can use the chat function to send messages, and this is being live streamed to the Redbourners Facebook page. And later on, as I've already said, it'll be on the Active in Redbourn website. If I've forgotten anything, I'm inviting the boss, Olive, to keep me under control and chip in now. Olive.
I'd just like to add, this isn't going out live on Facebook because we've got this problem with Facebook. So the recording's going to go out immediately at the end of the show.
Brilliant. Okay. So, thank you very much, Olive. Let's find out what's happening on the health front. Liz, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Chris.
Good. Now, you were off last week or the week before, I think. How was your break?
It was really good. We managed to get to North Wales. So actually got away, which was lovely, and we had amazing weather. So we climbed some mountains, saw the sea. It was beautiful. So yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Lovely. Was it Snowdonia around there? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely lovely up there. Absolutely
yeah.
Lovely. Okay, over to you, Liz. Then tell us.
Lovely. Thank you. So I've got a bit of an update from the Elms practice in Harpenden. So they are with a COVID vaccination hat on. They're just doing second vaccinations for the next fortnight, and as that's all the supply they're getting. And then after that 2 weeks, they will then be doing the under 45s again with first doses. If you are age 42 and up, then you can, if you don't want to wait for that, you can ring 119 and go to a mass vaccination site to receive a vaccine as well, if you would rather take that route. But they are only getting second dose vaccines for the next fortnight at the Harpenden Hall site. From my point of view at Batchwood in St Albans, we're doing a mix of second vaccines and first vaccines at the moment. The last couple of weeks we've been doing housebound seconds, which is a bit of a logistical nightmare, but we've been managing to do those. But at the moment we've got clinics on for first doses and second doses. So we're sort of mixing the two at the moment. And we've just heard that Batchwood will be one of the sites locally that will get more Pfizer vaccine than other sites. So it means that we will be able to accommodate those under 30s that aren't able to have the AstraZeneca vaccine, or anybody over 30 that is got blood clotting problems and so can't have AstraZeneca. So that's good news because we've been getting lots and lots of queries around that. So really just plodding through those vaccines. We have seen that the uptake is lower in the lower age groups. So we would really like to encourage all of our under 50s to attend for a vaccine. If you are worried, please go on the websites, the government websites, for more information. There's a whole wealth of information out there. Or you do feel free to chat through with one of our nurses or GPs, but really would encourage people to attend for their vaccine. As I say, we're all in this together, and quicker the more people are vaccinated, the better. So we'd like to get that message out to everybody. Just for a couple of other non-COVID things, we've got a new GP starting next week at Redbourn Surgery. She's called Dr. Sonali Dasgupta. She's a lady doctor, and she'll be with us for 2 days a week. So some of you may come across Sonali. She's got a very strong interest in diabetes, which is great for our team. So that's some news there. And also we'd really like to ask for everybody's help in that if you do have internet access or access to a computer or via a mobile phone, if you've got a query or question that is non-urgent, then please consider using the online consultation method of contacting the surgery. So on our website, there's a big orange box on the front page of the website which says online consultation. And if you click on that, you can send through your message and you will get a much quicker response and be sort of signposted to the right care if you use that function rather than hanging on the telephone. We're really trying to free up the telephone lines for people that don't have access to the internet and can't contact us like that, or for urgent problems. So there are, you know, probably 50% of the calls we get, people could deal with by using that online consultation function. So we'd like to ask for everybody's help with that, please. And that's all I had.
Ah, that was good.
Liz,
I do love the benefits that COVID is giving us in terms of new practices, etc. No pun intended, and across the board, new ways of getting good results. I think, you know, we all think about the bad side of these things, but actually there's some really good stuff coming out of it as well. And as you say, there are ways of getting a lot more patients seen as a result of
yeah, and I know the telephones are a constant, you know, bugbear for lots of people trying to get through, and it's frustrating for patients and it's frustrating for us to hear that people are having to hold on the telephone, and when really they're asking for a repeat prescription or they're asking for an appointment in 2 weeks' time or something like that, can all be done online. So if you do have access to those kind of facilities, obviously there will be many patients that don't, and that's fine, but we need to free up those telephone lines for people that really need it.
Liz, I got asked a question for you, is how are we doing with face-to-face meetings with the doctor?
So at the moment, we the doctors still decide whether the face-to-face appointment is appropriate. We're currently thinking, having some meetings about how we're going to be post-June when things start to, you know, all the sort of lockdown measures are eased. There's likely to be a balance going forward, because telephone consultations are very appropriate for lots of things, but we're conscious that we do need to open up more face-to-face for patients. So there are some benefits of what we've learned through the pandemic, and it's more convenient for patients a lot of the time to be dealt with on the telephone for lots of things, because they don't have to factor in travel time and things like that. But obviously there will be some patients that want to be seen face to face, or what their issue is needs to be seen face to face. So so it's likely to be a little bit more availability of face to face, but it will probably still be triaged to make sure it is appropriate.
Okay, thanks, Liz.
Excellent, excellent. See you maybe next week or the week after.
I think Sarah's on next week, but so probably the week after.
Look forward to it. Cheers
then. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
And we're going to move swiftly on to Rev Will Gibbs. Good morning, Will.
Morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's a very natty top, by the way. I know Simon sports a fine line in decorative shirts and so on, but I think you're right up there, actually.
Look, it's just about every colour that can be printed.
It looks like a multicoloured periodic table.
Well, that's what Olive said. It's proof from a printer that they can print just about any colour possible. That's why it existed. As a promotion, and I just loved it. So, here's the thing though, I love it, my wife hates it, so it doesn't get many outings, to say the least. He calls it my Joseph coat, and you can understand why.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Over to you, Will.
Lovely, thank you. Good morning, everybody. With the exception of a royal peculiar, and I'm not referring to a person here, but rather a place, where a church comes under the direct oversight and control of the monarch, places like St George's Chapel, Windsor, the Temple Church and Westminster Abbey, for example. Well, with the exception of these, by and large, every square inch of land falls within a parish. The introduction of Christianity and its development under Ethelbert of Kent required an organisational unit to assist with ecclesiastical administration, coming from the Greek word paroikia, meaning the dwelling place of the priest. The 8th Archbishop of Canterbury, by the wonderful name of Theodore of Tarsus, applied the term parish to the Anglo-Saxon township unit, wherever it existed. Whilst this was somewhat imprecise and slightly haphazard in places, over time, every parcel of land was assigned to a parish and to the care and responsibility of a priest. So this is a system that has evolved over many centuries, but was retained throughout the Reformation and in the founding of the Church of England. As the established church in this land, with only a few technical exceptions, any resident of a parish has a legal right to a baptism, a wedding, or a funeral in their parish church. The term parish was originally about the area served by that church and its priest, and in many instances also about the tithes that were due from the land in that parish. So it was important that the boundaries were clear and obvious. Move the boundary a bit over time, and more land or less land fell within that parish, and the income went up or down accordingly. No land grabs permitted. Maps are only one way of knowing the shape of a place, and before the borders of England's parishes were definitively mapped, people learned the boundaries of their community on foot. Every year, a few days before the Feast of the Ascension, the members of each parish would come together to walk the edge of their common lands. The practice was called beating the bounds, and the purpose was to create a shared mental map of the parish. They carried flags, sang songs, read homilies, and used willow branches to swap the landmarks that separated one parish from another. It was the responsibility of the older members of the community to remember the boundaries, and the responsibility of the younger ones to learn them so that they could be preserved from one generation to another. I'm sorry to say this, but pain was used as an aid to memory, and the form of attack was determined by the landscape. If they came to a stream, the children's heads might be dunked in it. If the boundary ran against a wall, they might be encouraged to race along it so that they would fall into the brambles on either side. If they came across a ditch, they might be encouraged to jump across it, and so they would slip in the mud. And when they came to a boundary stone, the children would be flipped upside down to have their heads knocked against it. In some spots, though, more pleasant memories would be created by pausing for a glass of beer or a snack of bread and cheese. Finally, they would finish with a party on the village green. The most practical reason for this tradition was to create a living record of the parish's boundaries, which could serve as evidence in disputes. There is one case, for instance, of a 75-year-old man who testified that he knew exactly where the eastern boundary of his parish lay because he had been thrown into a heap of nettles 60 years before when he was a boy. Simply asserting that he remembered the boundary would not have stood up in court. It was the vivid, visceral nature of this memory, its connection to a dramatic experience that helped his parish to win their case. The walk round also served to bless the crops and to draw the people of the parish together. The priest and poet George Herbert wrote that the beating of the bounds was a time for the reconciling of differences, and that anyone who stayed at home would be reproved as uncharitable and unneighbourly. The parish came into being as its inhabitants walked it, both as a geographical space and as a community. It's a lovely thing that's steeped both in folk tradition and social history of this country, as well as the ministry of the church. And there are still some today who will locally walk and beat the bounds, walking the perimeter of our parish of Redbourn. It's happening a week on Sunday on the 9th of May, coordinated by Austin Prawl. So do join in with some or all of the walk that day. There are some further details in the Common Round magazine, which is just about to come out, I think tomorrow. can I just say, we won't be flipping any children upside down or throwing anyone into nettles, but we will use it to appreciate the parish, the area where we live, and all that it contains, its people and places, shops, schools, businesses, farms and homes, but also to appreciate what is nearby on the other side of that boundary. Like a biological cell, our parish boundary should also be about giving shape and structure, yes, whilst at the same time being permeable and allowing good things to flow.
Excellent, absolutely excellent. Well, I have to tell you that I think I now know where my teachers got the idea of how they could teach me. They didn't know about nettles. Luckily, they never knew about nettles. That's all I can say. Will, the idea of being proud of your environment, but completely open to new ideas, it's a massive, it's just such a big idea. I love it. I mean, it's that balance of being patriotic, proud, but at the same time respecting and learning and building from outside. It's a massive point, massive.
No, I think so. There's something about really appreciating all the good things and the good people that are all around us, and being really pleased to share those things with other people, being generous with them rather than just keeping them to ourselves.
Yes, yes, that's excellent. Thank you, Will.
My pleasure. I think what I said might fit rather well with what we're going to talk about in some of the rest of the call in terms of the local area and how we serve it and appreciate it. So
yes, Will. I'd appreciate it if you didn't take my introduction off me, but never mind.
Sorry. I'll shut up now.
No,
well done, Will. Well done.
I'm just teasing you. Don't worry. It is absolutely appropriate, as we are going to have a mini hustings, and before I start on the mini hustings, I need to just do a little bit of process, because as you know, Active in Redbourn is non-political and non-religious as an organisation. We just like people being happy and fit, and that's our raison d'etre. So we approached all of the candidates, and we've got 2 candidates on today and one representative of a candidate who couldn't make it. We've got Matt Fisher, who is representing David Brockway, the Green candidate. Thomas Chapman was focusing his efforts on his election campaign, but he did offer to come on to the Zoom call afterwards, after the campaign, if appropriate. Brian Gunson for the Liberal Democrats, and Simon Vegro from the Labour Party. Now, I'm less interested in the politics, I'm more interested in the people, so I'd like to move on. I have in my possession a 1907 penny, might always come in handy. So in order to find out between the 3 of you who's going to go first, second and third, I'm going to toss up. Who wants to have the first toss? Brian said yes. Brian, your tails. The odd one out will go first. And the second one is tails. The third one is tails. One more time. Brian's going first.
We're all going together, Chris. We'll all go together.
No, you're now heads. So. So Brian, I'd like you to start. And the question is the following question. Is that you've got a very tough act to follow in Tony Swendell. Why do you think you or your party will do the best job?
Well, thanks, Chris, and good morning to everyone. And thanks for Will for reminding us about the parish. Actually, the ward is a bit bigger than the parish, and it goes over to Kingsbourne Green and almost down to Pimlico and Gormanbury and Chilworthbury. So that's interesting. And for those of you who don't realise, Chris, I just want to just clear before I answer the question properly is that I'm standing for district. There's obviously, it's a by-election, and nobody can say that Tony wasn't a hard act to follow. He was an empathetic, compassionate individual who gave up his time to help in some way, and I would hope in some way to continue that legacy. Interestingly, as Liberal Democrats, we never stood against him, and in fact, indeed, I voted for him personally. So that is his legacy, and it will be sorely missed. Now, over the last 39 years, it's getting on to 40 years I've lived in this village, I've always volunteered. It's always been in my ethics and even my family's ethics. My wife and children were brought up here. And as a result, we've always tried to put something back into this exceptional community. I was a member and chair, Will won't remember, but predecessor of Friends of St Mary's, and we raised considerable funds for the ancient church building, which obviously is a grade 1 listed and goes back a long, long way. I volunteer for the Redbourn Care Group. That means driving people to hospital appointments, either in the car or driving the minibus. I drive to vaccinations. I've been collecting food for the food banks, shop for people. And when the health centre changed hands, tried to resolve some of the transition issues through my trusteeship and volunteering at Hertfordshire Health Watch.
Ryan, can I remind you of 1 minute?
I know, I'm really late. And I volunteered at vaccination centres. In fact, I'm on duty at 12, so I've got to dash off after this. So my promise as district councillor is that I will work doubly hard to ensure that Redbourn and the surrounding smaller villages and communities get the support it deserves and keep that legacy of Tony going.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, between Matt, I'm going to ask you, heads or tails?
Heads, please.
It's tails. So, Simon, you go next.
Thanks, Chris, and hi, Matt, and hi, Brian. Good morning, everybody. So as Brian just said, it's a very tough act to follow indeed. Tony was a much-loved and highly competent person with a great sense of civic duty. But here's my 3 reasons for me: experience, expertise, and enthusiasm. I've lived in the village for many years, and I'm already on the parish council, where I've been dealing with the issues of residents of the village on a daily basis for some time. Redbourn is special, as we all know, and I'd like you to help me to keep it that way. If elected, I will fight passionately and enthusiastically for our wonderful village to preserve what's best about it while trying to bring in more investment and improved services. There's a quote from my favourite novelist, Charles Dickens, which elegantly summarises my guiding political principle, which is to think of people as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. Remember your independent spirit, Redbourn, and vote for the party that believes that the public good is at least as important as private gain. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, within a minute. Matt, over to you for your minute.
Indeed. Thank you. And thanks for having me on. And to echo the other thoughts that we've mentioned there. So we're an energetic and passionate about embracing change with new ideas to create and deliver green, focused, fairer and community-spirited place to live. We need a change in thinking. Respectfully, if we keep doing the same things, we're going to get the same results. So a shift in awareness, looking at what humans are about and what we actually need and want and how this works in the community and the world at large. James Allen said, men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. And I think that's quite telling of today's situation in terms of change. So economic growth should also not be the main measure of human success, nor indeed happiness. We must wake up to the crisis point that we're all in so many areas of our lives. That is the pandemic, the environment, our well-being, the economy, our diet and our health. And we have fresh ideas to promote our recovery for all to a greener and fairer place within the community.
Thank you very much. The second question, I'll do away with the calling. I think I'll just make sure that each of you gets your fair share of shout. Second question I'll ask you of 3 questions is, which policies do you think are particularly relevant to the ordinary people of Redbourn? And may I ask Simon to answer that one first? Simon, you were on mute.
Sorry, I thought I'd never make that mistake, sorry.
Don't worry, Simon.
On the parish council already, I have first-hand evidence of this, I'd like to think. Issues vary from ones I'd call strategic, such as housing, education, healthcare provision, public transport, crime, climate change, as Matt just touched on, what the post-COVID world will look like, and tactical ones, such as car parking, recycling, traffic, the cycle lane between Redbourn and St Albans, the high street, the shops, facilities and amenities available in the village, and of course our wonderful common, and a whole load of other things too. Underpinning all of this is a justifiable sense of pride in our village, its community spirit and sense of camaraderie, and a fervent wish to retain its integrity and what's so special, while recognising that the world is changing around us. Redbourn wants to be at ease with itself and with the outside world.
Excellent. Matt, would you like to come on and tell us your thoughts about that?
So to protect against harmful development is a key thing. To promote green spaces from front gardens to allotments, not only green, but health, well-being and community focus to go with that. We would look to fund an energy reduction officer, a way of promoting reduction in all of our use of energy. Would promote a reduce air pollution, and I'll come on to that later. Educate and reinforce a mindset shift to reduce, reuse and recycle program. I think the key part there is to reduce, really honestly look at our consumption as a household and as individuals, and look at how we can reduce our consumption. That's probably got the biggest impact on our environmental footprint. Improve help for carers, make neighbourhoods safer, more inclusive and more accessible. To promote local buying and support local businesses and food projects. Promote adoption of the living wage and encourage ethical business practices.
And Brian, may I ask you to comment?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Chris. Thanks. I mean, talking to people around the village, and I've been doing a lot of that over the last few days and weeks. Three things really come to mind, and one is safety, one is village integrity, and the other is the well-being of the individuals. I mean, safety concerns I can help address, and one of the things I signed up is a 20 Plenties pledge, and interesting to see that most of the Liberal Democrats have signed up to it, and there had been quite a bit of 20s instilled in St Albans, where they hold the balance between them and the Conservatives. So more 20 mile an hour areas, which hopefully will give the figures are fantastic in terms of reduction in potential injuries to pedestrians, and a dramatic increase in survival, and reducing emissions and pollution. So it has a double shot. For families with older kids, the Hartland roundabout seems to be a major concern, particularly for those who cycle or walk to Roundwood School or any of the schools in Redbourn. And I will re-engage in the cycle and footpath, vitally needed in St Albans, and look at one up to Hartland. Although their county district can put some pressure, and I want to raise that again because it can't go away, and we've still had some tragic accidents down at the bends by the Prey there. On village integrity, I want to ensure we have sensible housing developments that don't destroy our village community, enhance the infrastructure to support any development. So whether that has benefits for the high street, and we need to expand maybe our health services if that happens. So your views will be listened to and represented. Finally, on well-being, COVID has affected us all. Many are lonely and still anxious. Response from the community must be sustained, and I will do my best to promote continued community involvement and cohesion. And Redbourn is a great place to live and a lot to do. Its well-being is vital. Whether it's promoting and volunteering for events that cheer us up, or support Redbourn Leisure Centre development, or reducing car emissions by slowing them down, it's high on my agenda. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And now for the final question, which is, Active in Redbourn is particularly interested in health, fitness and well-being. And how will you help us in our quest to achieve this? And I'd like to ask Matt that question first.
Sure, thank you. So to follow on with the coattails of yourself, Brian, the Promote 20s Plenty scheme, this will do many a benefit, but essentially will deter motorists from actually driving, and therefore inspire us all to get active, physically active, cycling and walking, which is obviously an easy and a cheap way of giving us cleaner air, quieter and indeed safer streets and roads. The protection and promotion of green spaces throughout the community, allowing safer and cleaner exercise, recreation, dog walking areas and facilities, improve help for carers, make neighbourhoods safer, inclusive, and as I said earlier, more accessible with transport. Youth clubs and senior clubs, shall I say. I'm an ex-Sea Cadet, and that's certainly given me a community focus, respect and purpose, and in that esprit de corps. In our formative years, I think these youth clubs managed to do that for us, and it's certainly stuck with me and is a massive part of community life. Litter picks, community gardens, vegetable patches and allotments, which I spend a lot of time on. Going back to basics, essentially, the simple things in life. I think we can be very present and invested so that we can all offer and feel part of something great, that community feel. And I think we feel happiness when we're fulfilled, and to be fulfilled we need to see and feel real progress, and that's not necessarily production or indeed consumption, of course. And then finally, movement is medicine. As a PT and ultra endurance athlete and so on, I can attain that exercise is an addictive drug, with the side effects that we all want and indeed need. Nature intended it to be that way. So we will help educate, inspire, support and facilitate that mental and physical shift to get more active in and around the community.
Thanks, you very, very much. Thank you. And Brian.
Oh, hi, Chris. Well, as you know, I'm an active member of AIR and helping you and others fulfill its aims of being a fitter, happier and healthier place. So I'm reiterating your comments, man. How would I do that? Well, 3 ways. I've got all my working life, I've been involved in health and social care, and the understanding that I can transfer to ensuring that people access the services they need, whether or physical or mental health, and in terms of care, be a priority on my agenda, and all that experience I will bear down in the district. Pushing for improved care service for our most vulnerable, particularly the young, the old and families, and ensure we have sustainable leisure facilities to encourage that activity. And that's nothing more pertinent than also obviously what's happening up the Dunstable Road. And finally, as District Council, I can push through scrutiny, that is the intensive examination on the delivery of community, environment and sport services, as well as through the Health and Wellbeing Partnership that ensures that health and wellbeing strategy becomes a reality. Its aims fit with AIR's, and that is improving physical health and wellbeing and improving mental health and wellbeing. So that is pushing from the district perspective and down to in the Redbourn ward, those objectives. So that's how I can help, Chris.
Thank you very much. And finally, Simon.
Thanks, Chris. Excuse me. 2 of my guiding quotes in life are Mother Teresa's, "Let no one come to you without leaving better and happier," and Gandhi's, "Be the change you wish to see." Basically, I love to help people, especially the poor and disadvantaged, from a very strong sense of personal purpose. As you know, I already do some volunteering group for Redbourn Care Group, and I help to run a local Parkinson's support group. I have Parkinson's myself. I'm also patron of a charity which helps the mentally ill through the wonderful medium of music. I'm already involved with Active in Redbourn, helping to organise some things, frequently hosting these lovely calls, and serving as treasurer, and contributing in any way I can to the best of my ability. I believe in Active in Redbourn's mission to help Redbourn become a beacon of health and happiness, and I'm doing something about it. And I could do even more if I was on St Albans District Council. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, all 3 of you, for broadly staying within the 1-minute guidelines. That was excellent. And I'd just like to repeat that the candidates are all being have a campaign for the forthcoming District Council elections. And could you just remind us what day that vote is on?
Thursday the 6th of May.
Thursday the 6th of May. Thanks, Matt. And again, just to confirm the position, all candidates were approached, and you 3 have actually turned up for this particular Zoom show. So thank you very, very much. I hope you found it helpful, and I hope the listeners found it helpful too.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks.
Okay, now moving on to over to the boss now. Olive, are you there?
So what I do is what's new, and I collected together quite a few things this week. So I just quickly run through them. Firstly, on the care group poster, there was a large thing about Forest Tots, which I'd never heard about, which is fun for kids from birth to the start of school. Friday mornings at St Mary's, just turn up. So I thought that was absolutely great. I'd pass on to other people. Sunday the 9th of May, yes, it's beating the bounds. You meet at the Harpenden Lane Road roundabout, which I think is an important factor. And no, there will be no child dunking and throwing in mud piles or whatever Will was talking about this morning. Thank you, Will, for the brilliant introduction. May the 23rd, don't forget the virtual fun run. That means that you're not running as a mass, you're running virtually. And there is a leaflet going out to every household, or has gone out to every household, I think, this week for on one side of the leaflet is the virtual fun run, and on the other side is AIR's Fun Day in July, 3rd of July. The next thing is the pharmacy, which I hadn't realised. You can actually collect COVID rapid lateral flow test kits if you want to, which I just thought I would pass on to other people, because I was visiting my daughter who's just had a baby, and so which is allowed on the rules because she's just had a baby, but I did do lateral flow. I did take lateral flow tests first. April was also Stress Awareness Month. So do have a look at Active in Redbourn. There's lots of things on activeinredbourn.co.uk about well-being and reducing stress. This week, you will get a free copy of the new 12-page brochure, After Lockdown, Redbourn's Guide to Healthy Living. You may recall right back at the beginning of lockdown, we produced one for exercises and well-being whilst people were in lockdown. And we've now done a follow-up one, 12 pages, and there's lots and lots of useful information in there and lots of useful links. And then looking further ahead onto the Community Newsbite on the May the 26th, there is a special edition as part of St Albans Sustainability Festival, which I think is going to be absolutely great. We're going to have contributors from all over the place for their part in making Redbourn sustainable, and well, it's Redbourn and St Albans sustainable. So thank you very much for that. I think that's all. Just to remind you, please send us what's new if something's going, something you're doing, so that we can give it a little promotion here.
Excellent, thank you. Bit like you, Olive, I for slightly different reasons, I also took a rapid lateral flow test yesterday, and I was pleasantly surprised at how efficient and quick it was in giving you reassurance that everything's okay. So if you're in doubts about it, it's less than 10 minutes and it really isn't that troublesome at all. So we come on now to catch up with the Snatchups, and it's time to head over once again to the picturesque village of St Mary's for the 14th instalment of our weekly serial, The Snatchups. When we left it, Tim had fooled the judges to win I Can See Your Voice. Stan was dreading a visit from his mother-in-law. Grandad had joined the Grim Reapers Motorcycle Club, and Jane had announced that she was going to perform the Full Monty. What could possibly go wrong?
Good morning. My name is Rosie Demeanor, and I would like to welcome everyone just joining us here on Radio Hertfordshire as we bring you the latest on the drama group that has divided a community. I'm here in the idyllic village of St Mary's, where a contentious play has polarised local opinion. With residents split evenly on both sides, it is a controversy that threatens to spill out of control, to pit families and friends against each other, and fracture an otherwise close-knit community. The play at the centre of the controversy is The Jilted Woman by Betty Cheated, which is due to be performed by the St Mary's Players in the local village hall in the next few weeks. The plot focuses on two young people thrown together by adversity, whose passionate and tempestuous relationship culminates on stage in a nude bedroom scene, which leaves little to the imagination. In a standoff which has been simmering for several weeks, opinion remains divided on whether this play is appropriate for a respectable St Mary's audience or should be banned altogether. On the one side, we have the two actors, Jane Snatchup and Danny Dreamboat, who believe in the artistic integrity of the piece. And on the other side, we have the vicar, Phil Tibbs, who believes that the inclusion of such a salacious scene is a total outrage and utterly unacceptable on every level. In fact, I don't think we've seen such a standoff between actors and the church since Monty Python released The Life of Brian. Now, I have with me here Jane Snatchup's parents, Stan and Brenda, who might be able to help to give a bit of background to the whole affair. Brenda, I'll come to you first, if I may. How did this all start?
Well, none of this would have happened if it hadn't been for that brazen hussy Sarah Trollope. I mean, everyone's talking about Jane getting her kit off, but that floozy can't seem to keep her clothes on for more than 5 minutes.
And who is Sarah Trollope?
With the loose morals and the quick release underwear. And that Gary's no better. If he hadn't allowed himself to be seduced by the promise of a kebab and a bit of how's your father, then Jane would never have got involved in this play in the first place.
So who's Gary?
Gary is Jane's ex-boyfriend who masquerades as a builder. I don't know what she saw in him. Everything he touches collapses sooner or later, so it's amazing their relationship lasted as long as it did.
Ah, so Jane got involved in the St Mary's Players to get over Gary?
No, she got involved in the St Mary's Players to get closer to Danny.
Her co-star in the play?
Yes, Jane and Danny were at school together and she's always fancied him, so she joined the cast hoping she might see a lot more of him.
Yes, and she's certainly got a wish in that respect.
And that brings us nicely around to the scene itself. Do you approve of Jane's involvement in the play?
Well, at first we didn't, but ultimately it is her decision, and I think what she is doing is very brave and also very empowering.
Yes, apparently the director backed down and said they didn't have to do it, but Jane and Danny insisted on doing it anyway.
That's right. They see this as breaking down taboos, challenging conventions and showing life as it really is.
Well, that's not how Phil Tibbs sees it.
Well, the church do seem to have some fairly steadfast rules on nudity. But what about Adam and Eve? That's what I say. I mean, they didn't have any clothes, did they? They were okay.
Yes, but they didn't have 100 people coming to watch them.
Well, that's because there weren't 100 other people. There was only a snake, and he didn't even have to buy a ticket.
But you do support her decision to do it?
Oh, of course we do. But obviously it would have been nice if she'd found some other way to challenge conventions, like becoming a welder, for instance.
A welder?
Yes, like in the film Flashdance, where the heroine shows she can hold her own in a male-dominated environment while still pursuing an artistic career of her own.
And she'd have been a far better welder than that Gary for a start. In fact, maybe she could wear a welder's mask on the stage so that no one would know it was her.
Well, that is certainly an interesting idea, but I can't help thinking that a nude scene with welders' masks would only make things even more bizarre. But thank you, Stan and Brenda, for that revealing insight. And now, apart from the church, the other significant section of the community who openly object to the inclusion of the scene are the older residents of the village. But interestingly, most of them still seem very keen to see it. One such resident, a Mrs. Old Lady, told me that although the elderly ladies she knew strongly disapproved of scenes of this kind, they always enjoyed watching Danny and wanting to see for themselves how big his part was and what other attributes he brought to the role. However, they were far less happy about what was the makeup of the audience on the Friday night, which appears to be a random mix between the demure residents of the Autumn Years Old People's Home and the patently less demure members of the Grim Reapers Motorcycle Club. Now, I have with me here the oldest member of the Grim Reapers Motorcycle Club, Grandad Snatchup, who remains fully behind Jane's decision to play a character who exposes her inner self and bears her soul in public.
That's right. I'm really proud of what Jane is doing. We all need to stand up and be counted in our lives and do something that we truly believe in, even if it means pushing boundaries and going against the majority.
So you think Jane is a role model?
Absolutely. A role model for all young people to believe in themselves, be comfortable in their own skin, and not be afraid to express themselves. It doesn't have to be by getting up on stage. It can be by doing anything that makes you self-confident as an individual. We in the Grim Reapers Motorcycle Club understand what it is like to do something different and go against convention. And we'll be there to support her and also help keep the peace if it all kicks off and the care home ladies get out of hand.
You know, when I arrived, I was expecting to be on the side of the protesters, but I think you may have won me round. I need to see this play for myself. How do I buy a ticket?
Well, you need to see my grandson Tim here, who is head of marketing and ticket sales.
Ah, Tim, you must be very proud of what your sister is doing. It is good to see that you're being so supportive.
Me? I'm just selling the tickets. This is going to be a blockbuster. Tickets are selling like hotcakes. We're going to make an absolute fortune.
But surely you're a bit apprehensive about the scene itself. I mean, what is it going to be like, sitting there watching?
Oh, I don't know. I can't actually bring myself to see it.
Oh, you mean because it's too uncomfortable?
No, I mean because the play itself is absolutely terrible. Anyway, I can't stick around here. I have people queuing up at the box office.
Well, the one person I have not yet had a chance to speak to is the main protagonist in all this, Jane Snatchup herself, and here she is. Jane, you've certainly become a controversial figure in the village. People must be looking at you very differently. How are you dealing with this newfound attention?
Well, it's quite strange. One minute no one really knows me, and the next minute I'm either a hero or a villain, depending on what side of the fence you are on. But for me, I don't really see what all the fuss is about. You see worse things on the television most evenings. Anyway, I see this as our watershed moment, a one-off, and I'm currently not intending to do anything like this again.
But what about the rumours of a sequel?
Well, that has been mentioned, and if the demand was there and we decided to do it, and if it was essential to the plot, then of course I would reluctantly have to consider doing it again.
Hold on a moment. Something must have happened. The people are running out of the village hall.
Quick, quick, someone call the fire brigade.
Oh, Dad, what is it?
Well, I don't know how it started, but the village hall stage is on fire. The whole set's gone up in flames. The play's going to have to be cancelled.
And on that bombshell, we must leave it for this week. Will the play be saved, or has the dream turned to ashes? Will we find out how the fire started? And did Phil Tibbs have anything to do with it? Will Jane now give up acting and become a welder? And will the elderly residents of the Autumn Years Old People's Home ever get over their disappointment? All will be revealed in next week's exciting episode of The Snatchups.
Absolutely wonderful. And on that cataclysmic note, I'd like to thank you all for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I certainly have. And at the end of the driest April, I think, if not on record for a certain long time, I'll just let you know it's forecast to rain this evening. So stay safe, and if you go for a walk, take an umbrella. Thank you.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Cheers then.